Hi, Molly Miller here. Thank you to Sweetwater for having me. I am here checking out Gamechanger Audio's first ever optical spring reverb pedal. This is a super dynamic pedal. It's been a lot of fun checking it out. So I want to do a few things. There's a lot to talk about with this pedal because it has such a wide range. You can get kind of a simple delay to a more dynamic, really big spring reverb sound, all the way to like whimsical, crazy harmonics and overtones happening. So I want to walk you through a few different things that I've been really digging with this pedal. So I'll tell you about that. I'll tell you about what I was just playing and some of my settings for that. And also, I just want to talk a little bit about this pedal. The thing that's so cool about it that I've been really digging is it has the actual spring in the pedal. And when I think of spring reverb, I'm kind of partial to that because oftentimes I don't want a ton of pedals happening and I just go guitar into amp. I've always loved the spring reverb sound, and I've never really been able to find a really authentic spring reverb sound, so it's cool to finally find it in a pedal. The next thing I want to talk about is the 3 different modes of shock. And so, there's that classic thing that happens with an amp that has a reverb tank in it. You move it, someone hits it, and you get that shake and that vibration. And it's cool to see that Gamechanger Audio has actually considered that. So there's a switch in the back. And it allows you to either have this shock sensor on, soft, so it's hard, soft, and off completely. If maybe you're playing in a loud place with a ton of people walking around, someone kicks the pedal or someone walks, next to the pedal. And so it does have that shock sensor that allows it to not be so sensitive to movement. There's 6 different modes. We have optics, sweep, trem, reflect, feedback, and harmonic. So let's actually now go into what I was just doing on this last song, talk about that setting. I was in the trem setting. I was playing a song called Whenever You Call, which is off my new record, St. George, and that I normally play with a trio. But the version I just played was inspired by this pedal. Normally, there's not this long dramatic intro, but this setting, that trem reverb setting, inspired it because I wanted kind of to add the drama, have that space, have some of those runs. It sounds so good with this pedal. Yeah, so things like that. So not necessarily always being in time, but I was inclined to play some rubato stuff. Some things that are out of time and dramatic and emotional. Okay, back to the pedal. Let me tell you what my actual settings are and talk to you about some of the things I'm doing and why I chose to do them. So my dry signal is about at 2 o'clock. I wanted to get just enough of that combo of dry and reverb where you can hear what I'm doing but also get that fattening sound of the reverb. Spring is at just above noon. Optical is at noon. My tone is at about 10 p.m. And then I'm on my trem setting, like I've said. And let me say one thing about that trem setting. I oftentimes, when I'm playing, don't have necessarily a ton of pedals going. Maybe some reverb, maybe a little delay, and then oftentimes I'll use a little bit of trem. I find that it fattens up my sound. So it's cool to see that in this pedal and in this setting all in one. So I'm getting this bigger sound and that like trem that fattens it up and rounds the tone. So that's why I chose to start with that setting. It's one of my favorite ones on the pedal. The control is at about 11. The drive is at about 1 p.m. And what I've noticed with the drive, I like it around that area, because what the drive actually does is it controls how much of the signal is being sent to the spring tank. And so when it's higher up, I can give you an example, you get more. You know, it's a lot versus I'll bring it down. Not quite as much. So I had it around 1 p.m. Notice I keep using PMs, could be AM, but around 1 o'clock. And now for the gate, a gate's another interesting thing that a part of this pedal. And it sort of acts like as a decay in a sense, where it's controlling how long the reverb lasts. So let me show you what that's all about. Mine's about noon right now. But when I put it up, the reverb lasts a little bit longer. And I put it down, you immediately can hear that. Not quite as long for that. That's the trem setting. I've really been enjoying that one. Now let's go into some other settings as well. This next mode I want to talk about is sweep. Some things about the sweep that kind of remind me of the last mode, that, you know, our through line through the pedal is like the fattening sound and how responsive this pedal is. I really like to play with my fingers and you know, think about and consider how when you touch the instrument slightly differently, how much it changes that. And that's really true of this pedal too. So I'll just play one chord and I'll play it a little harder and then a little softer. So here's a little harder versus softer. And you can hear how dynamic it is and how responsive it is. So as a player that you know, interacts with their instrument a lot, it's nice to have a pedal that can help bring that out. Now, what's happening with the sweep mode is that I kind of hear a trem setting, but what's actually happening is it's rhythmically switching between different optics. So let me show you. I'm going to bring the control up so you can really hear that effect a little bit more and simultaneously listen for the modulation effect. So we're adding modulation, and instead of trem, it's that rhythmically switching between different optics. Light modulation. And also you can hear in the reverb that up and down sound, which I often associate with a tremolo, but it's actually not a tremolo. So it still has that fattening thing that I'm really into. So I'll just play a second and I'll keep in that kind of D minor zone that I was just playing. Okay, let's get into this reflect mode. I think this is one of my favorite modes on the pedal. It almost makes me feel nostalgic. It gets really lo-fi. I feel like I can almost hear an old cassette player when I use this mode. And especially it gets really cinematic higher up on the neck, so I want to show you some of that. And so if you can hear that lo-fi, those reflections happening at the top, but with that sort of cassette tape thing happening. So I've really been enjoying it, and I want to play you a piece and then we can talk a little bit more about it. This next song is called You Say, and it's one of the solo pieces off my new record. And especially after 2020, I've been exploring a lot of different pedals where you can that kind of fatten up your sound when you're playing alone. And this is definitely something that would be cool for that. So here's You Say. It's so fun to play solo guitar with this. You can hear so much of these overtones and the harmonics happening. It's really cool to see how Gamechanger has put together this, analog spring reverb with this like really cool lo-fi cassette sound. So it's a lot of fun to mess around with. Now let's get into this last mode that I want to talk about with you. I want to talk about the harmonic mode. There's some similarities between the harmonic mode and the reflect mode where you get like overtones and they're both really cinematic and dramatic, which I can often be drawn towards. But this mode, the harmonic mode, is a little bit more whimsical. It's a little darker as well. And I've been enjoying that. So let me show you a little piece of that. So you can hear all those overtones and the harmonic happening as well. And part of the fun of this pedal is to see what happens when you just let a note ring for a second. So it's nice to not want to necessarily play quite as many notes and just let a note be held and hear what that sounds like. So I want to play a piece out for you in this harmonic mode. And this piece is called Meditations on Movement. It's also, I'm only playing songs today really from my new record called St. George. This is a solo guitar piece. It's kind of an etude. Once I started messing around with the harmonic mode, I immediately started playing Meditation on Movement. It felt right. It's a sort of a cinematic piece that, has a lot of flows and dramatic stops and starts. And I thought the beauty of this pedal, this Gamechanger pedal, would be brought out in this piece.